Welcome to the Candy Valentino Show, the podcast for founders, investors, and entrepreneurs, where we have honest conversations about what it takes to grow your business, build more wealth, and create financial freedom.
Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Candy Valentino Show. Thanks for tuning in today, and we've got a great interview. If you've been following the show, we have been changing things up. We're changing our drop dates, we're changing our segments, our episodes, so there's gonna be a lot of change, but we are rolling it out, really excited. So today's interview is with none other than Erin Cammarata. Erin Cammarata is a 20-year veteran in business. She's created multiple companies. She has over 50 employees across the United States, and she just launched a brand new company that, although she has endless experience in, she only did it for her own self and her company prior, and she just launched this sister company called The Buzz HR, where she's bringing services to entrepreneurs and business owners of how to actually sustain the people part of your business. Isn't it the most difficult part of business, right? We want to start a business because we want to build something, we want to grow something, we want to bring it to market. Then oftentimes we get drugged down by all the day-to-day. And so often we don't have the right documentation, we don't have the right systems and processes, and we're on this constant hiring hamster wheel. Well, what she is doing is revolutionary. So I want to introduce to you Erin Cammarata. So let's jump into it. Erin, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, Candy. I'm very happy to be here and grateful for this opportunity. Thank you.
Oh my gosh. I wanted to make sure to do this because, as you know, we have a lot of entrepreneurs and business owners and just people in general, executives that listen to the show. And so I wanted to have this conversation, and I want to get into, of course, your story and a little bit more. But first, I like to give people value straight out of the gate. So are you down for that?
I'm going to try. Yeah, let's do it. Let's go for it. Absolutely.
So if someone's listening right now, they're currently an entrepreneur or business owner, and they're wearing a bunch of hats. How does someone know when they need to start looking at HR? Like, is that something that they need? Is it revenue? Is it team size? What would you say?
Well, I say if you have one employee, you should really have an HR structure at least. It's that simple. I know maybe a little dramatic, but at least it's when you need an HR when you have at least one employee, because it really holds a structure for your company, for your business, and how you're going to grow your culture and all that. So it's really from the beginning, you need HR. I would like to put a proactive approach to HR instead of a reactive approach. So a lot of our clients come to us in a reactive state. Oh my goodness, I got this letter from the lawyer. What do I do? And I would love to have HR being a proactive approach, and that would start with your first employee.
I love that. And I
Yeah.
can so relate to that back in the day.
Yeah.
I had all these employees, and then you get a lawsuit letter or an unemployment compensation letter you don't know what to do with. And I'm
I
like,
can't tell you how many times I say, I wish you called me 3 months ago. I wish in a proactive approach. So we're really trying to put a proactive approach to HR.
so I love that. So someone that has a smaller team, they at least need a process to be proactive around it. I absolutely agree. If someone maybe they can't handle it themselves, they have 5, 6 employees, it's starting to become a little overwhelming. They're not sure that they have all of the right processes or handbooks or all of the things in place. What are some of the challenges that can result? Like, what are some of the problems that can surface because of not having structured HR in your business?
Geez, it could cost you money. It literally will cost your money. It will steal your time. It will it will set excuse me, it will set a layout for just a turmoil of effects. If you don't have a structured HR, you don't have a handbook to go by, you don't have documentation protocols in place, it's going to cost you time, money, and open you up for exposure that you don't want that you want to avoid if possible.
What are some
So,
of the worst things that you've seen? Because now you've been in business, 20 years on your own?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
What are some of the craziest stories that you've
Ah,
seen happen?
craziest stories. I have so many stories. Which one should I tell? I think, we from what your listeners might be able to get a response from, or take a takeaway from, would be, we have, and this is so common. It's not just one. This is a true story, but it's a very common story. We have employer. You have a a company that has, it's a multi-million dollar company, has 30, 40 employees, and they have one individual that's wearing 10 different hats. They're doing the administrative hat, the HR hat, all these different hats, and there's not a specialty. So this one story is, we get a call after a reactive call. Hey, I got this letter from a lawyer that I'm being sued for a sexual harassment suit. What do I do? And it's really, this was a happy, joyful employee the whole time they were working there until they left, and they filed the suit. So the horror stories are, you know this you're a successful, established organization and company, and what you're doing is not protecting yourself. This was a true story. They had 40 employees for a multi-million dollar company, and they didn't document. They didn't go through all of those processes to protect themselves in the long run, and therefore they got sued. They had to settle for a lot of less money than they were sued for, but only had to settle because they didn't have the proper documentation. Um, I can tell you some of my personal stories in those 20 years of business that we've been into. So that's just one small story. We had an employee who sued us because she she lost her unemployment, tried to sue us because she lost her unemployment suit, and she thought that we, as the employer, had the final decision if she got unemployment or not. That's literally a myth we talk about all the time. As an employer, we don't make those decisions. Those are made at the state levels. So our documentation, all we do is send in documentation when we're asked for that to protect us. But we got sued on the long run because when they tried to sue us because she thought that her unemployment was a direct effect of us. So
Mm. And it's
yeah,
interesting. A lot of these things, at least from my experience, being in business as long as I have, it seems like all of these things happen and nobody tells entrepreneurs. It's like, go market your business and you can do it. And there's all these like rah things, but these are real things that can take your business down.
yeah, and we call them myths. We call them landmines or myths in our office too. But entrepreneurs get into business because they have a passion for something. They want to start. They want to let's roll with that passion. They're not thinking of, oh, hey, on the weekends I have to make sure I have all of my ducks in a row for protocol. And who wants to spend their weekends doing that? So it's not uncommon. You get into business because you love what you're doing, or you have a specialty that you want to enhance and do all that. You're not thinking, oh, geez, I better protect myself and have a policy manual. I mean, it's not fun. It's comical because I'm really trying to change the script. We really are at the buzz. We're really just trying to change that script so we can redefine it, re-energize it, and really allow entrepreneurs to thrive in their business and what they're passionate about. And so that's
It's so true. Who wants to work all week handling all the fires that we do in a business and then put together a probationary plan for your for your employee that keeps coming in late or whatever?
Or for me, when I realized I needed help in my first business, in one of my businesses, I had two different states I was employees out of. I'm like, okay, I have to file this tax, and I have to do this. And it was very difficult for me to step aside from building the business to make sure I was being compliant in the business. And that's
Mm.
when I called and I hired outsource experts in the HR piece of it. So yeah,
Yeah, and you mentioned something multi-state, which that trips up people so
oh
often
my
when they're
gosh.
growing, right? Because you think, oh, that's the great thing. Let's throw up a LinkedIn post or ZipRecruiter and let's expand it into all of these different states. And then you end up hiring someone from California, right? And then it's like
Yeah,
their laws are
forget
totally
about
different
it.
than
Yeah.
Florida, right? So
Yeah, forget about it.
let's unpack that for a hot second. Those business owners that are looking to maybe do that in order to widen their reach of new employees, which I understand the thought process behind that. What are some of the risks and what are some of the extra paperwork you have to do when you hire
Oh,
multi-state?
yeah. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Oh no, that was it.
Your thought.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So and that's what happened to us, or that's what happened when COVID. When COVID, pre-COVID, we were a brick and mortar in the state of New Hampshire, and we had 10,000 feet of brick and mortar, and that was great. Um, Post COVID hit, we were able. It was really a blessing for us because we were able to fish out of a larger pond and collect and get employees out of a larger pond, which was very nice. However, the downside to that is I had employees in 38 states. So, and there's different laws and regulations for each state that I had to be an expert in. How am I possibly going to do that, especially if I was going to do that on the weekends? I had an HR team. I have an HR team that did that for me internally, phenomenal people that were helping me with that. So I didn't have to worry about it, but that is the risk. You know, in January alone, there were 25, January of this year, there were approximately 25 federal and local laws that came out that are affecting different states. So for 10 new ones in California, there's 11 in Illinois. So there's literally, it's almost impossible unless you have an expert or somebody on your side that's going to fill you in on all that information to be on top of it. Um, you know, you mentioned ZipRecruiter, posting a job on ZipRecruiter and that. There was one of the laws in Illinois that it was you can no longer post a generic job description. Hey, come work for us, competitive pay, competitive salary. If you have over 15 employees in Illinois now, you have to be detailed. Yeah, just and it's not that you're supposed to know all these rules, but if you don't have an expert or somebody on your side for it, you're going to want to be able to sleep well at night, and that's one of the reasons why we recommend, having an expert of HR. You're not supposed to know everything, but you need to make sure you're protected.
Yeah. Well, I'm a huge fan of it only because of being through it so much, making so many mistakes in the beginning, like so many people do, and then hiring my own team. And then you're trying to hire your own expert, but you don't know what you know. So I don't even know how to hire that person. So I actually lucked out back in the day. I don't know if I ever told you this story, but I hired someone. She was post retirement. So she was already, I think, like 60 years old. She had retired, and just was bored and wanted to come back into HR. And she ran HR for, I think it was Caterpillar, like massive company. And now she's working, for me at the small scale. And she knew, but if I didn't hire her, I always say that was a gift. Beth, if you're listening, you were a gift. She was a gift that she kind of walked in. But for those people, that was a luck of the draw. I can't take credit for that. Those people that don't have that don't even know how to hire or train that HR person to then work in their organization. So what are some of the things that you do for business owners? Like, what does that mean to somebody who is foreign to the idea of HR?
Yeah, so basically, for what we do for business owners, we'll help them sleep at night. We'll take off that risk. We'll do recruiting for anything from recruiting to compliance, writing their handbook, onboarding process. All that is so vitally important to their practice. You mentioned that when you were telling your story about Beth and all that. People think that, hey, I have a payroll company, they take care of my payroll. Well, the payroll companies are not responsible for what you don't know. So just because you have a payroll company, yeah, they're helping you with that task, but they're not the expert in that in your industry or that field or your state necessarily. So yeah, there are with what we do at the Buzz is we take care of everything that we can help you take care of everything as little or as much as you like. But we'll take care of the policy writing, the recruiting, when you need a 911 call to, hey, I need help. What do I do with this? I have an employee who's complaining about how they were treated or how they felt. That's something that we would help with all of that. So it just really takes off that, lets the entrepreneur do what want to do best and where they want to spend their time.
It's the
So
people
it's
piece, right? Like you're
yeah,
handling the people piece, which is the most complicated of all businesses. If you're
yeah,
able to help craft even the job description, help with recruiting, onboard the employee, make sure that they sign all the proper documentation, then if there's an issue like there is call offs or poor performance, you're handling that too.
yeah, absolutely. And we can handle all of that, but and also retention too, because an employee feels heard, listened to, and they have a
Absolutely.
direction where to go. It's not just the reactive piece. It's that employment support, that turnover. If you're seeing a lot of, we had a call, we have one of our clients, they call, how do I help me with recruiting and retention? I can't keep my employees. Why? When we did the HR assessment for them, which we do for all our clients when they first come in, when we do the HR assessment, we identify that there was there was no structure. They were just like, "Hey, great, welcome aboard. We're part of our family," type of thing. Which is, we can talk about that for hours. But they came in as they were recruiting them as part of their family. But there was no structure for those employees, and they were doing that. Turnover was just incredible. We came in and we helped write a handbook. Um, we coached the owners on the interviewing process, what great questions to ask. Hiring somebody is not just looking at a resume and checking their references. It's really making sure they're a good fit for their culture, all that stuff. So we were able to go in with the buzzes piece for the HR piece, and then with our business consulting piece as well. So we're able to really treat our clients from both ends, from the HR end and from the consulting end, and from the business knowledge end. And it's so fun because I think it's fun. I mean, it is HR. I mean, it's making it as fun as possible, but it's so fun because you're able to make a difference in these companies. You're really able to let the entrepreneur, the business owner, thrive in what they want to thrive in, and while we'll take care of the not so fun, stuff. But it's really a necessity. So I'm excited. It's fun.
And I would say that not only are you making a difference in the entrepreneur's life, but you're also making a difference in the employees' lives
Of
because
course,
now
yeah.
they actually have better training. And I think sometimes we think of that like there's a second piece of that. Not only are we solving our own problems, but we're actually helping our team. That we do say, hey, welcome on your family. Like, well, let's treat them like family. Let's give them resources and tools and people that they can count on when there's a problem. And that kind of is like almost like a business partner, if you will, in your business. And it helps them a lot as well.
Yeah, an employee handbook. It's like, oh, I have my own employee handbook. So your employee handbook, is it a 15-page PDF that you wrote 20 years ago that you have an employee handbook? Or is it an actual document that you're able to create your structure and your culture around that your employees can use as a tool? Is it a live document? Is it something that they can access? Do they have an onboarding process where once the employee comes in your door, they feel comfortable, they feel heard, or as an onboarding process come where they sit in a seat and they don't get a computer for 5 days and not really know who to go to or who, that whole process creates that culture, and we're able to help companies do that for them. It's wonderful. It's fun. It's
Yeah, I
fun. Yeah.
love that. And I think that
Yeah.
that does help the overall retention, like you mentioned. Well, I want to pivot into just a little bit about your own entrepreneurial journey as well, because so many of us entrepreneurs learn from our own mistakes. We learn from other people. It normalizes the journey. So what are some of just it doesn't have to be HR related, but what are some of the mistakes that you feel along your journey, if you're okay to share them, that you made throughout your business journey, your first company, this one? What are some of the mistakes that you made along the way?
Some of the mistakes that I've made along the way, geez, I appreciate you asking that because I don't necessarily look at my mistakes. It literally, I've never had a mistake that I classify as a mistake after it was already done. It was such a learning experience. Um, Literally, they're actually gifts. Like I am so great right now because of what happened in the past. Um, we've had, mistakes for HR wise. I can talk about before I had an HR person. We had I had employees classified incorrectly. So I was like, hey, yeah, come on board. You're a full-time employee who is going to be um my right-hand person. You're going to do A, B, and C. And I didn't classify, they weren't classified correctly as far as a contractor versus a W-2 employee, for example. I was hiring contractors because I didn't know better, but they were really employees. So I had to flip that script, and I had to create that change in there.
Tell us a
Mistakes
few
along.
things. Well, let's stay on that for a hot second. Tell us a few things of the difference, because a lot of people make this mistake. What's the difference between an independent contractor and a W-2 classification?
A W-2 is an employee. An independent contractor is just that. It's someone who they're not your sole. Usually, there's your sole person. So your sole job is not just you. They work for other people. Um, a W-2 employee has um, work comes into your office. They use your tools. A W-2, a 1099 contractor should have their own computer, should have their own tools. They work for other people. A W-2 employee, you pay all their taxes. A 1099 contractor, they pay their own taxes. So but when misclassification where it gets dangerous, so a 1099 employee, you're just giving them a check. Here you go. Thanks so much. This is great. And they file their own taxes. It's frowned upon and it's dangerous because you're avoiding not intentionally. Sometimes I wasn't trying to avoid the taxes. I just didn't know. Hey, come along when I first started my other companies. So it was an eye opener for me because I had to do that whole reclassification of, okay, where are you? How do you fit in? So that was part of it. The 1099 W-2 was a mistake that I made in the beginning because I just didn't know. And my payroll company, then it was a box, yes or no, is, what are you doing? You just sending a check or are you doing a payroll? And there's different taxes, different laws. Some states have federal taxes and state taxes. They have county taxes as well. So I didn't know enough when I first began, but I knew enough to hire somebody who was really great to help me with all that.
That's right. I always say you don't have to know everything, but you have to find people who know, right? Like you don't have to know everything.
And Candy, honestly, that's part of my success and part of my mistakes that I made is that, or why how I designed my businesses going forward is that I surround myself with people that are smarter than me and that elevate me to that level. Um, you know, together when we work, we really can create something wonderful. So,
Yeah,
yeah,
amazing. Yeah, of course.
yeah.
And speaking of that, because I know that you've had many mentors, worked with people. We've worked together for 3 years or so on your business. What are some of the best things that you've learned along your journey that you didn't know on your own? And all of a sudden it was like, oh my gosh. And it just changed maybe trajectory of your business or the way that you look at business or decide, what would some of the things that you would come to mind?
You've taught me so much. I'm working with you directly and I love to read books. I'm a self-help. My husband will say I'm a self-help book reader, education. I don't have a formal education. I don't have a business MBA or I self-taught from how I got here. So I really the people I surrounded myself with, the investments I've made in my business and my mentors and my coaches and myself have been instrumental. The things that I've learned, oh my gosh, I've learned so much. I've learned to look at my P&L correctly. I learned to look at what am I doing that is not feeding my sole focus of my company. What can I outsource? What can I do? I just look at things completely different. What am I doing that I don't have the expertise in that I can it's just a whole way I looked at my companies going forward. I when I go to bed at night, my brain continues what can I do more? What can I do more of? And I really have to um, compartmentalize my areas of where my expertise is. So I got a tool bag. I look at it as a tool, literally a tool bag. I know, you can have a shovel and a hammer, whatever you have it for your tool bag. But for me, I have an accountant. I have, what are my tool bags? What's going to make me successful? And I learned that from my mentors, and along the way, there's so much I've learned. There's so much that you've taught me. I'm very grateful for all that I've learned. So.
Oh, yeah. Well, I think all of us, nobody has gotten here. It's funny that term like self-made is always thrown around, and there is a degree of truth to it because it first has to start with you and you have to put the work in. But literally all of us that have been here and that have made it have all done it because we're constant students and always learning. And you even just shared something there that I think everyone can listen to and learn from. It's like being open to other people's opinions, not thinking that you're the smartest person in the room, like always knowing, like I remember going to events and I was thinking like, wow, I'm like way further ahead of all of these people. But I still believe that there were moments that I can still learn something. Like if I open my mind and I pay attention, I'm still going to learn something. And sure enough, I did, like every single time. You sometimes may not get what you want, but you end up getting what you need,
Yeah,
if
and you
you
don't,
stay open.
and sometimes you don't know until you're going through it. Like I didn't know like this a disaster or this mistake, or I didn't know it was an opportunity for growth. I didn't know, for an employee, for example, I had, I don't want to get distracted, but you don't know you're going through that. It's a lesson that you're gonna take with you and you're gonna grow.
I love that. How do you balance, because and since we've worked together, we're all about data-driven decisions. We talk about reviewing the data, understanding your data. How do you balance the data-driven decision making with instinct? Do you believe that there's a little instinct that comes along in business, or do you believe that it's all data? What are your thoughts on
I think I appreciate that question. Data plays a significant role. I don't know. In my core instinct, it's kind of, I have to go both. I have to play in put in both courts. Data and instinct. I mean, as an entrepreneur, as a professional, and doing this doing in business for 20 years, I have to go a lot with my gut and my instinct. But I also have to qualify that with data. So I'll go, I have a feeling, I have an idea, but then I have to back that up with, okay, let me see if this is a good idea or this data is great. And it's really, they go hand in hand, and I believe. So.
I can't agree more. I agree as well. I love that you said have an instinct, but back it up with data.
Yeah, yeah,
Because sometimes the data
absolutely.
could be wrong too, right? Data's
Oh
only
yeah,
critical when it's right.
absolutely. Yeah.
And we could do it in the other sense, right? Review the data, but what's your instinct on it?
Yeah, trust and verify, right? You got to trust that data. You got to verify that data. Absolutely.
I love it. So for someone listening right now that's thinking about the earlier part of our conversation and they're like, you know what, I've got some risk here. I feel like I've got a lot of these employees. I don't have a lot of the things that Erin mentioned. I don't have the systems in place. And I really think I need a little support. What are some of the first things that they can do to maybe get in touch with you? Is there anything that you can kind of point us in the right direction?
Yeah, absolutely. You can visit my website on thebuzzhr.com. We have a bunch of downloadables there that you can measure your own risks where you are. Should I outsource? Should I not outsource? They can get in touch with me there. Yeah, that's basically we have all these downloadables available for them. For happy to share that with them. The risks, measure their own risks, see if they need help, or if that's the case.
We'll link all of that in the show notes. And then I always end, not always, but I would say 90% of the time we end with one of the signature questions. Erin does not know what this question is, so she couldn't pre-plan. That way it's raw, real, and in the moment. But if you were to wake up tomorrow and everything that you've built, the business, we didn't even talk about your first successful company, the company that you have, this company that you've built, you don't have a dollar in your bank account. You don't have any of the employees that you have, and nobody knows who you are. The only thing you get to keep is the information and knowledge that you've built along these last 20 years. What are
Okay.
some of the first things you would do tomorrow to start building it all back?
I would. I love this question because I have no idea you were going to ask it. What I would do to start building it back, I would go from where I started. Believing in myself. I would keep investing in myself and believe in myself. And I believe that surround yourself with people that are better than you, that are going to lift you up. I would to keep all my knowledge. I mean, I have a self motto for myself that I've always lived by. This is, I don't know, maybe before 30 years ago, 40 years ago. I work hard, live well, appreciate each breath, design each moment, and share the joy. That is my credo from myself. And then I believe that by living by that motto, everything else will come back to me. If I woke up and I hadn't have anything, where I would start again is I would start from the ground up, and I would believe in myself, and I would surround myself with people that helped me get to me where I am as well. So just utilize all of those outside extensions that we can really tap into. Organically, I help others and I help businesses, and I love doing all of that. And I'm with the HR company, with this new venture we're in, I'm able to put all that together and really solidify what I wanted to design in the beginning. So I think getting to answer your question, I just go back to the basics, and I would start there again because it's never faulted me or failed me. So
I love that. I think that's a great
yeah.
note to end on. Erin Cammarata, The Buzz HR. Thanks so much for spending this time with us and pouring into our audience. We greatly appreciate it. That's all for today's episode on The Candy Valentino Show. If you love this episode, subscribe wherever you tune in. And if you haven't already, we would be so grateful if you left us a 5-star review. Thanks again for spending this time with me today. We'll see you next time.